No.
Let's go to my PowerPoint up here. I was asked by a couple members, that was asked me about my business model. I'm not going to do another how to sell point of sale, hunter versus gatherer. If you haven't seen that, that's a pretty good one too. But what I did want to just touch base on today is moving from, and I have real life experience now, moving from a traditional model of sales where you go, whether it's sell equipment, specifically targeted at the point of sale space, where we used to lease equipment, make money on equipment. Salespeople like Dennis, myself, my partners in sales would make their upfront commission. It's really hard to take, whether you're doing the actual sales and creating the upfront revenue yourself or as a business model, to transfer over to a, what I call a PAAS model. I learned it from John here. Point of sale as a subscription. Go back one. There it is. Moving to PAAS. I call it point of sale as a subscription. And the person that introduced me to this, the legendary pioneer in my opinion, was Hunter Allen. Here I was, I joined, I signed up as a Dinnerware dealer because I have my system. And if you know my system, I break up the sales cycle. I have specialists that only prospect and cold call and set appointments. That's all they do. And then I have folks like Dennis, who's an expert, one of the best in the country at presenting and closing. Presenting and closing. And then I have people who do the menu build, installation, training, and support. There are dealers, probably dealers in this room, that look for superstar salespeople, or you want to be a superstar salesperson yourself, that you do all the prospecting. You have to be great at cold calling and dealing with rejection. Then you have to put your hat on of the building trust and credibility and needs analysis and being a great presenter. And then you have to have the gumption to ask for the order and close the sale and overcome all the objections. Then you're so good, you actually do the menu build yourself. And then you go out and you deliver it and you train them on how to use the system. I mean, that boggles my mind. Why someone would want to create a formula like that. I know people are still doing it. It's very difficult to find superstar people, or be one yourself, that's a superstar at cold calling. I can't wait to get up in the morning and just knock doors. That's what I do. Oh, now I'm just the greatest presenter in building relationships and hugging and all that other stuff. Now I gotta go and train their people on how to use the darn thing. That's not easy. But again, that's not what I'm here to talk about. Sorry I got off tangent there. I'm here to talk about from a business model, financial model. And going back to Hunter Allen, when I had Dinnerware, that's my model was leasing. I needed cash flow to cover my cost of goods. I have expenses, payroll, commission. And when I sat down with Hunter, he goes, well, I moved to this as a service model. As a service, what do you mean? No, I supply the equipment, and then I just charge a monthly fee. And well, how do you pay for it? No, I pay for the equipment. Well, when's your break even? And what happens if they go out of business? God forbid. You invested all this money and put this system in, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, they're gone. What do you do? Well, I just go get the equipment, I clean it up a little bit, and I redo it to somebody else. I go, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, how long does it take? So, at the time, I couldn't afford it because I needed the cash flow. But eventually, I said to myself, I gotta change because I see this wave coming. And I saw I watched Hunter. I saw when I first met him, he was kind of still, kind of tight. And eventually, a year later, he felt a little bit better. Pretty soon, he was peacocking and he's going, how's it going? He goes, well, I'm buying a new house. And I go, oh. So, once you get past this sort of, there's a point when you move to this model of having your recurring revenue stream outweigh your cost of sales. And I'm going to show you an example, real life example, but something that everyone can relate to. Starting with, next slide, when we present this is how we present a point of sale as a subscription. However you're doing your presentation, at some point you have to get to the investment. So before we always present our solution, we always present what the landscape is, the competitive landscape. Know your competitors. So traditionally when Dennis presents, when we get to after our trial close, so after our demo, when we demo the software, whatever you're demoing, we always ask a trial close. Never present price or investment if you didn't first ask a clearing question. If they're not interested in your product, why even talk about the investment? We always do a trial close that goes something like this. Well, John, from what you see here so far, at this point, from what you've seen so far, can you see how your business could benefit by going to a point of sale system like this? If they say no, pack up and get out of there as fast as you would run out of a hot burning house. Why go through the whole investment and everything else? But they don't say no. They'll either say, well, yeah, or they'll say, well, that depends. How much is it? Well, that's exactly what I'm here to show you. Then it goes right into, if you were to go out and do this with someone else besides us, traditionally, you know that for hardware and software, for a legacy traditional program, you can purchase it for anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 per terminal. You could lease it. We used to lease all the time. Our average lease was $200 to $300 per terminal. Non-cancelable with your personal guarantee. So if you go out of business, the leasing company is going to be calling you and you're on the hook. Okay? Additional expenses. It's not just the upfront investment, and those dealers here in the room know a lot of the income is made after the initial investment. There's the upgrades, the maintenance, the service support calls. That's how the traditional model, it can be anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 a month. And you will see their head nodding. Yep. The ongoing maintenance. The average upfront is $5,000 and $500 a month total cost of ownership. We don't have very many people argue this, do you, Dennis? When you show this, do they ever say, that isn't right, that's not right, that's not right?
No, never.
Never. Then we go, so let me show you what we've done. We go to the next slide. I'm using revenue as an example. We went to the revenue, it's an all-inclusive monthly subscription, a total investment of only $6.50 a day. Here's the other mistake people make is when they use this model, they always talk about a monthly investment. We only talk, if they use it pretty much every day, why not we bill monthly, but your investment, they've got to look at it, reduce it, I call it the reduction to the ridiculous. It's $6.50 a day to have this system, all inclusive. We bill $195 a month per terminal. It includes the hardware. Now this is really important. If you're doing an iPad, if you're not doing an iPad, if you're doing something else, look at this. This is the most beautiful close in the history of all history. We supply for that investment. You get the enclosure. I didn't say iPad. I say secure enclosure and stem, EMV reader, cash drawer, thermal printer, lifetime warranty. Part of this software, the full revenue license, the gateway management portal, back office, service support, ongoing service support, data security backup, maintenance, new feature upgrades. You get all that for $195. Now, Mr. Prospect, the only thing we have up front is a $1,495 menu build installation, and that covers our upfront training and service. Okay? Now, the only thing you have to decide, Mr. Prospect, is if you want to supply your own iPads and go out and buy them yourself, you can go to Best Buy and get an iPad Pro, which is what we use, for $800, $900. Or you can get them from us over here. You can purchase them from us, fully programmed for $995 per iPad. We'll warranty them, but here's the good news. Any business that's signing up for us now, we are throwing in the iPads for free. 900, you have 3 terminals, we'll give you 3, that's $3,000 savings. That covers your $1,495 setup fee and then some. That is the most beautiful close. I used to have the iPad up here in the hardware. Because it's already cost average here, part of my 95. My break even here, you want to have your break even on cost of goods, I would say around 12 months. So you do a 12, whatever your cost of goods are, you handle your pricing, make sure you try to get that break even point to 12 months. But we were tired of hearing, what if I bought my own iPad? How much would that monthly be if we supplied our own iPad? So we just took it out, put a value on it, and then use it as an incentive, and they're just like, really? Oh, so where do I sign? It's the greatest close ever developed in our business. Use it, it works. So let me just show you an example of what happens here when you go to this model. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, the F word. A lot of us do not like the F word, I know it. But if you can't make it free for them, you didn't do your job. Our whole presentation is designed around making sure that that prospect has a feeling that this system will more than pay for itself. It has to be free. If it doesn't pay for itself, you shouldn't take it. If you don't think this is going to make you more than $6.50 a day based on the loyalty program, the mobile marketing, the online ordering, whatever it might be, don't take it. But there's an additional way we can literally make it free. So we use credit card processing as a tool, CoCard, as a tool to pay for the system. And they're much more apt to give you their credit card statement when you position it this way. We don't talk credit cards. When we go in there, we didn't come from CoCard credit card processing. We're coming in as EPS. We're here to talk about point of sale. We don't even mention credit card processing until after. There's another way we can make this free for you. We partner with CoCard for direct wholesale pricing, interchange plus pricing, and in some cases, we can save merchants enough money on their card processing to pay for some, and in some cases, all of that $195 altogether. So, Mr. Prospect, why don't you just use me as a consultant? We'll look at your current program. I'll do an analysis to see how much money we can save you in that area. And you're going to want to, whoever you go with, whether it's us, it's best to have your card processing with the point of sale company, because that way if anything happens, you've got one company that you can deal with. So that's how we use credit card processing. There's other ways. I know Hunter's team, they might use it where the good news is that $14.95 setup fee, if we can take it, we'll match whatever you got with credit cards. And if you move that over to us, which you're going to want to because that way we can service it, we'll keep your same rates and we'll reduce that $14.95 down to $9.95. So there's a couple different angles here when it comes to the use of CoCard and credit card processing. We just tend to use it. So his margins are much higher than mine. I mean, we come down to 5 basis points and 4 cents. We have to just to come up with savings. We're trying to come up with savings to pay for this. So let me show you what happens when you do this. Next slide. You can increase the size here so people can see a little bit there. Let's do 2 sites a month. Let's say your company, yourself, sold 2 sites and average 2 terminals per site. Meaning there's a lot of companies, businesses, you sell 1 to, there's a few you sell 3 to. Let's just say you average 2 sites, 2 terminals. Okay, and let's take the license fees of revenue, for instance. So month 1, you've got 4 terminals, 2, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 27. By the 12 months of selling 2 sites, 2 terminals, you're up to 48 terminals total. Let's go back to our pricing fees. These are the point of sale subscription fees, $195 times 4. That's what you get. Okay, at the end of the year, that's $60,000 in PAAS fees. If you go to cost of goods, I took the cost of goods on basically looking at the revenue. You have to do your own. Let's just say it's $1,500 per terminal, including the iPad or whatever you're doing, and the licenses like we get an extra $100 a month. That keeps going up. So 61, 62s, that goes up. All the way to the end, you got 73,000. So your first 12 months, you lose. Congratulations, you lost $12,000. Okay, well, geez, I gotta pay my bills, how can I do that? Well, there's another side to this I'll show you on that up front that can help support that. But let's look at the next 12 months. This is where this gets interesting. It's like compound interest, right? This isn't rocket science. If you just keep selling 2 sites, 2 terminals, look at where you're breaking. We're already at break even. We're collecting 10, our cost is 73, so we're no longer losing money on a monthly basis. But after the end of 24 months, your monthly recurring revenue is at 18 grand. It's hard to do that in credit card processing in 24 months. It took me 10 years, it took me years to get up to $18,000 a month in recurring revenue with credit card. Here we did it by just selling 2 sites, 2 terminals in 24 months. 173 grand total for revenue. My cost of goods were about 94 grand. Next, lost 12 grand my first year, made $78,000 my year 2. And you can go on and on. I'll just go one more year for you. You can do 36 months of this. You can get by that first 12 months. It's like getting into real estate. That first year, if I could just survive, I could sell 1 or 2 houses, eventually I'll make it. This is better. Let's go to 36 months. 208, my residual, monthly residuals up to $28,000 a month. 285 total, 100 grand in cost. Year 3, you make $176,000 selling 2 sites a month and averaging 2 terminals. That's the beauty of point of sale as a subscription. Now, I'm really going to open up my lingerie drawer and show you my books. This actually happened. I have a rep who's not here, Mike Uto. We moved to a brand new product January of 2017. 1 rep. It's called Mobile Bites. Okay? I went to my books and I got the actual numbers. He sold a number of sites up on the top. Monthly sites were up there, 2, 6, 10. I only track sites. These are not terminals. But the revenue, PAAS revenue, okay, is in the 2nd row. Cost of goods and licenses was in the 3rd row. These are actual numbers. What I wanted to show you down below here are these setup fees. Remember when I talked about the iPads, the free iPads? Well, it got to a point where Mike says, I don't have to give all 3 iPads. If I can just give them 1 iPad, what I'm finding is that's enough. So he's collecting $995 on a 3-terminal deal. He's collecting almost $2,000 for the iPads up front, plus the $1,500. His average site, he averages about $3,500 up front. That helps cover commissions, payroll, so we can eat and survive. So that's what I was talking about, creating that up front. It's still there. We obtained all these same numbers with that. So if you go back through, one guy, he sold 42 sites. Now remember, it's not one person process. He averages about 4. I've got somebody setting appointments for this guy. 42 sites, 1 person. Alejandro may be able to do that, but that's 2 people. So we brought in $136,000 in upfront fees. That's covering the payroll for 2 people. But look at what we did here. I lost $40,000 my first year doing this. I go, God. So the first year, I lost $40,000 on 1 guy. Now look what happened in the next 6 months of this year. So this started 17. This is my actual books, first 6 months of 2018. I'm already way over break even, right? I didn't lose any money. So in the first 6 months of this year, Mike and then Dennis came on and started selling. So if you notice, my sites doubled. I'm averaging almost 7, 8, 9 sites a month, because that's when Dennis switched over to Mobile Bite. So he's in here this last 6 months. But I'm up to $221,000 in Rep Pass point of sale subscription, $123 in cost. In the first 6 months, I'm 100 grand ahead. Okay, these are actual numbers. So my point is this. If you're serious about this, I'm telling you, figure out a way to do it. If you have to finance your company, this is not profit, understand. I have overhead, rent, I didn't make 100 grand. Obviously, I have a lot of other expenses, guys. We all have expenses. I have other revenue. I have credit card revenue. We've been doing the subscription. I lost about $300,000 my first year going to the subscription model when I was with Dynamo. So this is just an example. I took out a business loan and a note to do that. But if you want to do it, it's worth it. And I know my sales rep said they went from an income of about 80 down to 50, that they trusted this would eventually work, and it did. So it's a risk, but I'm here to tell you, it works. Any questions? Amy?
What paperwork do you have as far as, obviously they're not signing a lease,
Yep.
if you're doing ACH?
So we created a form I can send you. I first got it from Hunter years ago. We've sort of redeveloped it. It's my own subscription as a service model. It's an agreement, right, Dennis? So when Dennis, and I'm going to invite Dennis and a few other people on our sales council up there, and I'm going to ask those type of questions. How do you sign someone? Dennis does everything over the phone. So all his sales are not even face-to-face because we're calling remote areas. Okay, we're calling, so all of Dennis's presentations are demos over the phone. So he has to get signatures and get everything signed, and he's a master at it. I want him to tell you how he does this because it's just spectacular how he gets them to sign and signature, electronic signature and stuff like that. So we'll go through that process with you. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's an inevitable term, right? Because they're
So we do,
their business.
yeah, so we do a 36-month minimum. It just renews.
Okay.
So I learned that from Hunter too. I used to have month to month, but then I decided to put 36 and my closing averages were the same, so why not have 36? So it's a 36-month agreement. But if they go out of business, again, I just go collect this stuff. I don't track them down and send the Gestapo to go knock on their doors to get payments, like a leasing company. I just pick up the hardware. Yeah, there's stuff in the terms about, termination, what they owe, all that spelled out in my agreement. So if you want my agreement, that's what CoCard's all about, people. It's electronic. It's easy for me to go to my file if you send me an email, hey Derek, can I see your agreement? Many of you have already done that, right? And I just hit boom, and I send you my agreement. Something I got it from Hunter. Hunter's attorney paid for it originally. I just duplicated it. Hunter, is there anything you want to add to this? Can you come up here? Because again, I'm not the king of this. I consider you, where are you today? You've got some people here doing this. Can you just come up here for a second? And see if you can give any other tips that I may have missed.
Well, I guess, are there any questions?
Yeah, or questions? Yes.
How about the compensation to the reps, since you're doing the, you're going in
What?
the are they okay waiting or?
Everyone's different. I think we're all trying to skin the same cat. Everyone wants to make money. When I went to this model, what I did is, there's obviously commissions up front, and then I was able to, I do it after 12 months when my cost of goods is paid. Part of this, $40,000, I do a percentage. So there is a recurring revenue stream, and that got them excited because before we were only as good as our last year. And as we're getting older, Dennis is getting a little older, I said, hey, let's do this together. So there is that incentive there that we didn't have before. Before I had this model, there was no recurring commission opportunity for my salespeople. This gives me that opportunity. So yes, I create a little bit of both. Dennis, the upfront, and then, I don't know.
So I just offer two thoughts. When you're thinking about compensation, the first thing that I would suggest is you have to figure out what is the number that it will take for you to be able to recruit and retain the salesperson that will be successful for you. And so that's sort of where you have to start, and you have to build a compensation plan that leads up to that. And so that's where the first step is, what is that number? The second step is, what does that successful salesperson look like? Is it 2 systems a month? Is it 3 systems a month? Is it an average of 2 terminals? Is it an average of 3 terminals? And so, and then you can back into how your pricing model is to see a successful salesperson is typically selling 2 systems a month with an average of 3 terminals, and based on where we are in the market with pricing, it generates this level of income, understanding your costs, and those are the tools that you can use as building blocks to figuring out a compensation plan. I've seen people, I've done it wrong 12 times, and I'm you know, we're on number 13, and maybe it's right, I'll let you know in a year. But that's my thought, is build into it backwards for something that will sustain your business and let you attract and retain the talent that can be successful in the position.
Okay, yeah.
How many other members are doing this?
Can I see a show of hands of how many have moved to this model or something similar?
All my friends.
Let me see a show of hands. Are you doing a hybrid of this where you might be doing a partial SaaS model, software as a service, and selling the hardware? Or are you doing more of a, what I do in PAAS? What are you guys doing?
We're doing software as a service.
Software, and then you're charging for the hardware?
For the most part, yeah, but we discount it based on credit cards, and if you go with us, then we discount hardware upfront.
Okay, so you kind of discount stuff with you get the credit
We're
card.
thinking to move more towards apps.
Yeah, so I would give a couple of thoughts. So you didn't include any payments residuals in this, right?
No, so no credit card residuals are part of this. Yeah.
Right, so this is all plus the credit card side, okay? So it does get very attractive that way. In the point of sale world, typically what you're providing as a product to the end user can be broken down into that it is hardware, software, and services, typically installation services and then ongoing services. And so what I do and what Dan does, so in Dan's case, and my case, we have an installation or an upfront fee. It's not as substantial as where Dan is, I think, today. But you can choose about how many of those products you want to build into the monthly fee as you are transitioning to this model. And so support services, that's traditionally the way that it's been done. In many cases, it's been an annual support agreement that you pay once. Very easy to switch that initially over to a monthly support agreement with somebody, and then you start getting some consistent residual revenue around the support side. The second piece that gets easy is the second easiest part is the software side. Many people are conditioned to the concept of software subscriptions now, and so you can take the software that you might have been selling licensing to somebody for and then turn that into a monthly subscription. And so in that case, they can still be paying you up front for the hardware, so you don't have a huge out-of-pocket expense initially. And you can go and build a book of business by doing that until you have the revenue coming in that you now want to add the hardware to the subscription. And so that's where Dan and I used to josh a couple of years ago, is I was at that point where I was putting the hardware into my subscription, and he was still funding that by selling and leasing the hardware. And you may have to do that for a period of time. That's very logical and normal in the process. But your goal should be to get to the point where you can provide it all as the subscription. That's where you just build the recurring revenue machine that just keeps on giving.
So then in the instance of Clover where they have a $39 per month terminal fee, they're not paying that? You're covering that under the $195?
If I was selling Clover, which I haven't, but we have people in here that have, is there anybody selling Clover that's using a similar model, that's this type of model? I think it would be more difficult, because Clover is, I can go online and see what Clover costs. It would be very difficult for me to sell Clover using this model because it's a transparent pricing. Meaning, why would I pay $195 or even $99 a terminal when I can buy one for this and the service support is $39? That's a little more difficult. If you choose, it's better to have a product, which is why we went to revenue, the Linga product, and white labeled it, so people can, remember when Honor was up here showing Linga, you can go online and see the pricing. That's a harder product to sell if it's out there already. That's why I choose a product, either a white label product where it's independent, so you can do that. How I would do Clover, is Dan Eisenman in here? Okay. I mean, Mike. What am I thinking? Mike. You sell a lot. You guys are going to a model with Clover, but how do you price your structure, Mike?
We do it a little differently.
Yeah.
We sell the units, charge 35% more for the units.
So you mark it up 35% over your cost, and you sell it to them. So you collect some money, and then you just charge up the 30-year buy rate, whatever the Clover is. You might still $49, $59, $69 a month.
That's correct. So there's minimal revenue on the monthly recurring for Clover, and so
You're focused more on getting the credit card processing revenue.
That's correct. correct.
You're focused on those margins, not necessarily PAAS. When you're selling, so my point is, if you're selling a Clover, you're using it more as a tool to get the credit card processing.
Right, which is why I asked, or wanted to illustrate before, that the credit card processing is not in this, because when you are truly evaluating this, that's an important component of it to look to it as well. When you see people out there in the market that are offering, free POS and things like that, the cost still exists to that. The way that they are able to go to market with that is by subsidizing those costs with the merchant processing revenue side of it. And so that you can build your own model around that as well. For instance, what we do, the way that we build in the merchant processing is that we offer the customer a rebate on their monthly fee. So if we go out and we meet with the customer and we propose a system to them that may be $450, and then we say to them, and if you choose to process with us, we'll act as the salesperson on your merchant processing account. We'll earn the revenue for doing that, and we're happy to share some of that revenue back to you in the form of a rebate. We're going to match your existing rate, so it's not going to cost you any more, and we're going to give you a $125 rebate on that $450 fee, so that's going to bring your monthly fee down to $325. So that's the way that we do it, that will incentivize them to use us for the processing. And then it's also, in our world, it's a retention tool, because if they come to us 6, 8, 12 months from now and say, I'm interested, I had somebody walking off the street, they say they're going to save me all this money, et cetera, we say, terrific, if you'd like to use them, you're certainly welcome to do that. However, please remember that you will lose the rebate of $125 a month. So that $75 a month in savings that they're going to deliver to you is really actually going to be a $50 expense increase for you.
But you can match the rates if you want, right?
Why would, gee, Mr. Customer, if you want to use Dan, it's going to cost you $50 or more a month. If you continue to use me, you'll continue to save that $50. Do I need to lower my rates?
Yeah, if you do it, but it depends on how much difference.
If I can save him $100 a month, then he's going to, forfeit the 50.
If he's going to come in, he's going to say he's going to save him $150 a month.
You'll match the rate.
Then we'll come back, and I don't have to match the rate. I just have to deliver that differential savings of $25. So that's how I preserve the margin on the processing side, the way that I have it set up. So, but my high-level comment there is just, when you think about modeling this, think about the merchant processing revenue that you can generate. Because if you're talking about offering a solution to somebody and that's going to generate $250 or $300 a month in a residual, build that into it and figure out how you can get it.
So, these are the example for the Lease you had. Based on your experience selling this model, what is the difficult situations you run into where you lost because you couldn't convince certain things? So what's the number one challenging situation trying to sell this model to customers?
I would ask Dennis, Alejandro, the guys in the field. I have a sales, that's a good question for them. What's their number one objection? When you present this model, does anything come to mind, Dennis, to answer that? Because when you present our pricing structure, the competitive landscape, then you show them our subscription. When it comes to the pricing structure, do you ever get an objection?
Not really. A lot of times it can be that I can't, I'm just a small place, I can't afford it, but then I tell them that I'll get into the processing part. And so that's the part.
So probably the number one objection would be, look at 4 terminals, $195, $800 a month. We can't afford that. Are you crazy? $800 a month for a point-of-sale system? Well, that depends what your net is. If we can save you, so much on your credit card processing, we can bring that. I think he uses credit card processing to start reducing that shock factor of $800 a month for 4 terminals.
And
I'm sorry, Neil.
I would just offer one additional. So I've been doing this now for about 8 years, and I will tell you that the market has now become conditioned to subscription and recurring payment services and models. And so we used to very early on get all kinds of feedback, such as, well, golly gee, how long do I pay that $800 for? And concerns like that. That has, in the markets that I serve, that has diminished significantly, and you find that people are receptive to paying for things on a monthly basis.
Neil.
I guess that's part of what my question was, that I would see, people would object to that monthly payment because they would look back and say, that old legacy micros, aloha, whatever system, that they would lease for $300 or $400 a month and then have a
So-
service fee. They would want to just pay cash, you know. and-
We play games with the sales team. I like them to try and ask you a question that will stump me. And so my standard response to that is, Mr. Customer, would you rather store your money in your bank or my bank? Because
I'm
when
going to
we,
say my bank, but I don't get that answer, so.
so when we illustrate to them that the costs over time, so when you get, depending on how you price your model, when we, there are a couple of things. So the first thing is that service is monthly, whether you buy or whether you buy the solution or whether you do it on a subscription basis, service is monthly. So let's take that out of the picture. The second thing is, what has changed in the industry these days is that the software manufacturers are moving to subscription models as well. So if you're doing a tablet cloud-based product, it's not really a piece of software that you can go out and buy. It's something that you subscribe to. Okay? And so when you filter those two out, then you can begin to have the conversation just about the hardware component of it. And when you have that about it, you can talk about, we typically, the way our pricing model's out, you get in approximately the 30 to the 36 month point where you get the break even between the customer buying it all up front versus paying us monthly. And when we explain to them, gee, what iPad or iPhone do you have that you're using that's more than 3 years old? Nobody has it. We replace the hardware and do things like that under our plan. So in our illustration, the way that we show that is that basically if you want to buy it, it means that you're still going to spend the same amount of money or more. It's just you're going to write a check to me today for that amount.
But then my objection would be the price, because then you're talking about $3,000 or $4,000 a year
Can I handle
in
that?
monthly fees. And I would say to you,
If-
I'm paying $10,000 over 3 years, and what do I own is nothing. I still got that
I would
same
say,
monthly payment.
Neil, if you think this costs you 1 cent, you shouldn't take it. Meaning if the value I didn't bring to you on this new technology, this new online ordering that's gonna drive foot traffic in, the mobile marketing, that your old legacy micros, the back office, all this stuff that I presented you, if the value's not there to outweigh, you should stay with your micros. If you think this costs you 1 cent, if you think this is an expense and not an investment, and you're not gonna get a return, this isn't the right program for you. That's what I would say to you. Because I can't argue about what you're saying. So if the value's not there, you got to create the whole presentation about creating a value so that they can see how this monthly investment more than pays for itself. $6.50 a day per terminal. Can I get that return?
Does anybody ever ask you for, several years down the line, if they could buy it out, a little lower tax? Have you ever run into that yet?
What if they say, hey, I've been paying this for several years, can I like a buyout of a lease, like at the end of a lease term, can I just buy it out? I would think, I know what your answer is going to be. You're not going to want this equipment, or you don't want to buy it. And you do a replacement program after so many years, right? We do. So we want to upgrade. The technology is going to be so much different. You're not going to want to buy this 5 years from now. But part of our program is we replace every so many years. If you stay on our subscription, our plan is, I'm not into it long enough, but after so many years, to keep them on so I don't lose them, I'm going to have to go back and give them new equipment, new stuff, new hardware, right?
That's what I was when you upgrade.
I haven't gotten to that point yet, but if they've been with me and they've been paying me this much money, my break even's 12 months. So after 36 months, I've made this much money on them. I want to keep them for another 5 years. I'm going to approach them and give them new equipment, even though it's costing me out of my pocket again. I want to keep them for another 5 years, because I don't want to lose them. And I think you have a program.
Well, so when customers want to get down to that level of detail, we go through a explanatory process with them to help them understand what that $450 a month fee covers. And that's where we break it down into the 3 different parts. So we may have a conversation with them. So that $450, $125 of that is the support services, that when you call us up on the phone at 8 o'clock at night, somebody answers and solves your problem, et cetera, et cetera. When that printer breaks, when that iPad breaks, we replace it. So we identify there's a service component, and then we identify what the software subscription is. And so for easy math, let's say that that's $125. And so then what we drilled down on the price of the hardware, the $450 less $125 less $125, we're explaining to them that of that $450, $200 is associated with the hardware. Okay? And then that's when somebody says to us, gee, I want to buy hardware, it's relatively the same question for us that Neil answered before. We say, okay, for you to purchase hardware, we're going to give you new hardware. You don't want this old one. And so for you to come out and purchase new hardware, it may be $6,000 or $7,000 worth of hardware that you have. And so at $200 a month, it's going to take you 35 months to break even on that payment on buying the hardware, which again, if that's the right decision for your business, we're happy to sell you the hardware. For most people, when they see that and they understand, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to pay the same amount of money, and in 35 or 36 months, I'm basically having equipment that is becoming outdated at that point, that the better thing to do is to do a subscription basis where if it becomes outdated at 15 months or has a problem at 15 months, we replace that.
And we don't even sell for, even if they said, can I just pay cash? We have people begging to buy this stuff. And they have the money. How much is it? We don't sell it for, we don't have a cash
When you
price.
say cash, I go, sure. I go, you got a calculator handy? I'm talking to you on the phone, and they go, yeah. And I go, well, what's $395 a month?
Times 36, that's your cash price.
Would you rather store your money in my bank or in your bank?
I go, you can go to somebody else. Remember, but we gave them the iPads for free. And we don't get that objection.
So, when you buy this equipment, technically it's your equipment, right?
Good point. So
Not technically, actually.
actually, even this is good for the tax man too. I went through an audit in Minnesota.
100% write-off
So,
on the equipment.
but I capitalize this equipment over time too, and there's some tax for the guys in here, and I just was audited by the state of Minnesota because I wasn't charging sales tax on this last month, and I was nervous. The auditor was in there for months with my account, and I'm going, what am I going to owe? Well, in Minnesota, they actually have under a software as a service. So I was able to get the auditor to agree. This is not. I didn't say PAAS hardware. And I said, it's a software as a service, and we just give them the hardware. And I had a big meeting in my office. They brought in a heavy hitter. And finally, there was no change. I beat them. So I don't charge sales tax in mine, but I'm not saying that's what you should do. Do you charge sales tax on your monthly subscription?
We do.
Okay, so I was nervous, and they say they're going to change it up. So check your law if you're going to charge tax on this stuff, okay?
But I mean, if you calculated those numbers on there, that's way more profitable. You're right on.
And as I end here today, if you have any questions, Hunter's been very open, I'm open. Email me, I can send you contracts, how we do stuff, how we pay our people, whatever it might be.
The point being made here is that the equipment is the asset of your business. Okay?
Yeah.
And so that is a benefit to your business. At a very, very basic level, you can show that it adds value to your business by owning that asset. In some cases, it can have significant positive tax applications.
So they don't
as well.
own the equipment.
With the credit card rebating, are there any legal or tax issues with that for you?
The credit card rebate?
Where you say, I'm giving you money back with your credit card processing?
They haven't caught me yet.
I think if there's,
Not that I'm aware of, that, we spent some money to model some things out, but that's, in essence, we offer it as we call it our preferred processing rebate, and we just, reduce the price that we charge them. We're careful that we don't, in essence, send money back to the restaurant, to Mr. Smith, the restaurant owner,
kickback.
in that
it's
sense.
cash, it's not a
Right.
cash.
Mike, last question.
Drop box.
Just a question, so we place ATMs all over.
Yeah, ATM, yeah.
So, it's $2,500 a piece, and then we are looking to already paid.
Yeah, yeah.
Period of time. So, we're replacing this equipment, we're basically replacing the equipment. And so when we place this equipment in location,
Yeah.
what typically is the, what is the payback time?
12 months for me. What's your payback on the average?
Typically 8 to 14 months.
Yeah,
depending
mine's
on
about,
the
if it's
size of
one
the system.
terminal, it's 14. If it's one, I don't have to get a kitchen printer.
And that's not counting merchant processing.
Right, right. Not counting processing.
Is that paid like a commission on the equipment or the sale?
No, that does not include that. That just includes straight hardware, cost of goods, and license fees.
I have a quick question. If someone's not in the POS system business, like you guys are, the restaurant.
Right.
business, and just getting into
Yes.
it because you're moving away from countertops.
Yes. I mean,
What kind of an investment do you need?
I just showed you. If Jeff, if you guys go out on that first screen back there and took that revenue lingo product where you don't have to menu build, service, support, you've never been in a POS, but if you don't want to build a support center, you take that product that people can't go price on the internet like Clover or Linga, and you price it at 90, because the cost is, if you did a 12-month payback with the license fee, you could price that at $99 a month, okay, instead of $195, and take my first screen here and just divide it in half, as far as both revenue and cost of goods, okay? So you probably have to go in your pocket, 10 grand before you got to break even. That would be my guess. Yeah, I don't want to scare you when I went in the hole $200,000 to $300,000. I've got a pretty big operation and I've got a lot of stuff. But if I was starting over, if I was just one person, it'd be different. But anyways, thanks everyone. I hope that helped. We gave you some information. Next time.